Hello and welcome to the NCIC Podcast. This is our maiden show, and for the first time, we are going to be having a conversation with the NCIC chairman himself, that is Dr. Reverend Samuel Kobia. Did I say it correctly? Is it Reverend Doctor or Dr. Reverend?
It's Reverend Doctor.
All right.
Yes.
Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you.
Welcome to this conversation, and I believe it's a very important one because right now we are seeing a lot of metamorphosis and evolution as far as Kenyan politics is concerned, and the conversations around basically moving Kenya to the next. Actually, people are calling it the third revolution or third liberation. I don't know how we will look at it, but perhaps through these conversations, we shall be able to demystify that.
Right.
So let me get right into it. The NCIC right now has been in operation for over a decade, probably almost 20 years now.
Yes, about 15 years.
About 15 years. What are some of the milestones that you can point out, specifically touching on matters, the young people, the youth of this country?
Yes. Well, the NCIC has part of its mandate the opportunities for young people and people who have been marginalized to access opportunities and services. When it comes to accessing opportunities, it means not only employment and services, but also the opportunity to have a platform through which you can be heard. And I would say that as far as the youth are concerned, as NCIC, we have provided platforms for the young Kenyans to be heard, and heard in a way that is meaningful, and it's inclusive, and safe. And I think that's really what I would say has been one of the most important milestones.
Right.
The second one is in helping to have a peaceful electoral process. And I say electoral process because this includes both before, during, and after the elections, that Kenya will be peaceful. Because the reason for that really is the reason behind the creation of NCIC was because of what was experienced during the post-elections of 2007.
Right. And
so from 2007, 2008, we can see that there was violence that was election-related. And perhaps the most important milestone for NCIC was when we were able to very significantly help to conduct the most peaceful elections, which was 2022 elections.
Right. Again, you've very rightly mentioned that NCIC comes against the backdrop of 2007/2008. And if you look at every single time Kenya has experienced any form of violence, the youth are right in the middle of it because the youth are energetic, they're very present, and they'd like their voices heard in every single situation. Do you feel since that time, 2007-2008, that the youth, first of all, are being heard as much as they want to be heard, and you think that voice is significant to the point of even affecting meaningful change?
Yes, what I would really say is that no, the youth have not been heard in large measure because they want spaces and platforms at national level or even at regional and county levels that provided the young people with such opportunities. Secondly, the young people themselves, especially the Gen Z, have said very clearly that one of their grievances is that they are not being heard. And it is for that reason that as NCIC, we started these transgenerational conversations because in the run-up to the 2022 elections, we had what we called the elections Bila Norma roadmap.
Right.
And we actually ran several symposia, including one with young people in preparation for 2022 elections, because the young people had said that they didn't see why they should bother to vote.
Yes.
So there was a very serious voter apathy among the young people in 2021. But as NCIC, we tried, and we had several symposia that made us understand that the young people were really longing to be heard, and that their voice matters. Unfortunately, in the run-up to 2022 elections, that didn't happen to the extent that the young people would have liked. And it is for that reason that we now feel that as we begin the roadmap to 2027 elections, we will double up our efforts as NCIC to make sure that we provide the spaces, time, and the platforms for young people to be heard, and hence our transgenerational conversations.
Right. Why do you think, though, because in 2022, 8 million young people didn't come out to vote, and it's because clearly they were apathetic. But could there be a deeper reason as to why they didn't show up? Because 8 million is quite a huge number, and it's a number that's a whole constituency by itself that can effect meaningful change, if at all they did decide to show up and do the right thing.
Correct. And that's actually what we have been telling the young people, that if they had indeed registered to vote and voted, and all of them voted for one candidate, that candidate would have been the president of this country.
True.
Because neither President Ruto nor the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga garnered 8 million votes.
True.
So that shows that yes, if the young people were well organized and they voted, so we are telling them that, look, you can make a huge difference. And I think that message has sunk. And we hope that the voter registration that IEBC started yesterday will continue and make sure that all young people who have attained the age of voting, and those who did not vote, even at that, register to vote in 2022, will do so this time round. The voice of the young people, not only are we talking of the statistics about the voter, but also transformation of the politics of Kenya by young people.
Yes.
When the Gen Z decided to storm the national stage in 2024, and demonstrated and protested and so forth, within a period of 2 or 3 weeks, they achieved what nobody else, no political party has ever achieved. Okay.
Yes.
Including, getting the president to dismiss the cabinet, and of course now dropping Finance Bill 2024. So there is a lot that was achieved through demonstrations. Now, that of course reminds one of the Arab Spring and other places where young people used now the tech, the high tech, to organize themselves, which means they have the capacity to bring people together. But beyond that, and now for a more structured way, that is what is needed in order to build on the achievements of 2024. And I think that's the biggest challenge to the young people. And that's what we are actually telling them. And we have emphasized this in the transgenerational conversations that we have had, in all parts of the country, actually, including here in Nairobi, of course.
True. When we look at situations also happening just outside Kenya, and the reason I'm asking this is because I want to see how we can tie them back to that transgenerational conversation. We saw what happened in Bangladesh. The youth went to the streets and they ousted their prime minister. Something similar happened to Nepal just weeks ago. And we can clearly see a trend in terms of how young people want to be heard. Here in Kenya, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga did say that he wants us to have that transgenerational conclave where we are talking about the issues affecting us as a country. But it looks like the youth are not interested in that kind of conversation. They are more focused on, can we just deliver what is supposed to be delivered?
Yes.
And they're asking just how difficult is that? Because if you're calling them to the table, they'll say the same things they have been saying on Twitter, on X, on Instagram, and on TikTok, and all the other social media platforms. Perhaps this is a waste of time calling them, because they're asking who will come to the table, where will that table be, and who exactly is going to be hosting that table, who's going to lead the conversation. This looks like a futile task. I don't know. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
No, actually, it's not a futile exercise. You have, of course, made reference to Nepal and to Bangladesh.
Right.
And it is true that through demonstrations, it's possible to mobilize hundreds of thousands of not only young people but also others who would join this. And bring down a government. That has happened. And I also made reference to the Arab Spring to say that that also happened in Egypt, in Algeria, and other places. Now, when you look at the change, the political change that comes through such demonstrations, and you look at it critically, at the end of the day, it's not the young people who benefit. And in places like Egypt, for example, there are many young people who who led those demonstrations, but today they are languishing in prisons because those who take the reins of power and all that are not young people. And that is why it is important for us in Kenya now to look at, what really, how can we leverage the achievements of Gen Z. And one way of doing that is what we are talking about, transgenerational conversations. It is true that the same demands have been mentioned in several places. Now, we need to go beyond that, and to be able to go beyond just listening and listing the demands is how do we then make sure that these will be translated into actual benefits for the young people. One of the biggest problems the young people have is unemployment. How do you deal with youth unemployment? That's one of the demands. I would say the biggest demand that the young people have. And therefore, if we work together, it's possible to come up with the policies and ideas that can lead to employment.
Right.
Secondly is representation, which comes through elections. Again, it's possible as we are moving to 2027 to come up with the ways in which, whether we are talking of a quota that we say, of course, there is the way to deal with the women issues, and a woman rep.
Right.
Could there be a youth rep?
in every county.
In every county,
Okay.
if you will, or in every region, and say that this number of young people, and of course, young people, we know it's below 35 years, according to the UN determination who a young person is. And could that be, one way, or really establish a quota? Because if we leave it to, for example, political parties just to deliver young people, which one? Each political party will say, oh, the other one will deliver the young people.
Yes.
So for us, Secondly, Kenyan elections have become a very expensive undertaking. There's no way young people can afford to form and run their own political party because it's just too expensive. And of course, it also needs a lot of organization, which the young people don't have.
Right.
So that's another question. How will the young people participate? Should they join other parties? Should they support certain candidates, or what to do? I think these are the questions now we wanted to provide the space to go beyond just lamenting into actual and the practical ways of meeting the demands.
Right. I might have to disagree with you on that point of the young people not having experience or not having, the wherewithal to organize. I feel like they have that because have you seen what happened during the Maandamano? That was organized.
Yes.
However, when it comes to this whole issue of political parties, and they have clearly stated they are partyless, they're leaderless, they're tribeless. And initially, that sounded okay until I got to dissect that, and I realized perhaps there needs to be some kind of party to drive, to help these individuals get themselves to the point where they want to be. And perhaps that's a conversation we can have at a different fora. However, for today, what I would also ask you is, when we look at the makeup of our youth organizations in this country, they sometimes, and the fact perhaps even why they are rejecting the old folk, is because the old folk are refusing to leave leadership. We've had legacy members of parliament. We've had legacy, very soon perhaps we shall have, legacy senators, and because they just don't want to leave these particular positions. And the young people are asking them, si utoke mkubali tu alternative leadership. Do you think that the young people can actually offer alternative leadership?
Well, yes, just to say, about organization. Yes, you are right. Mobilizing people through a telephone,
yes,
and
or a WhatsApp group,
yes, or another. It's actually easier than bringing people into a political platform. Organizing a demonstration or a protest is very easy. But when it comes to now organizing people so that they will do what you tell them to do.
For governance.
Yes. It's not easy.
Yes.
It needs some experience. I can say that from my own, as a Gen Z, I was deeply involved in, politics and all that. When I used to work for NCIC as a young person. So I know the extent to which, you can do so much through demonstrations. Beyond that, and that's why we have advised the young people to now be more structured.
Yes.
It is okay to be, partyless, leaderless, tribeless, especially tribeless. That, I think, is the greatest thing that has happened. But you cannot remain partyless and leaderless if you now are going to,
advance an agenda.
Governance, organizing elections, etc., etc. You need a more structured way of doing it, and that's what we want young people to engage in and agree on what to do. So I think that's one thing. Now, when it comes to alternative leadership. Yes, of course, there are ways in which we can have alternative leadership. But, now we are into the rough terrain of power.
Yes.
Power is natural and all that. Don't think that you just sit there and the politicians will allow you to take power. No. That's not how the world works. Now we are talking of power,
right?
And because politics, because it's those who are in power who. That's why the young people wanted to engage those who are in power. But those who are in power cannot just sit, and give it to you.
Yes.
Oh, no. So it's a very rough and tough terrain.
Yes.
And that's why I would say let young people leverage the achievements that they had and then translate that into a workable program or a project, actually. And this time around, it's a project that will help them to have more jobs, but also to be able to participate in the organization or the state organs and agencies where decisions are made.
True. The Constitution of Kenya 2010, of course, brought with it a lot of good things, the positives that we can look at it. For example, chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. But if you go back to our sovereignty, chapter 1 really tells us that we can exercise it through public participation, for example. And there's one thing I think we have, for lack of a better word, we have bastardized, and that is the fact that public participation is a very important and integral part of lawmaking in this country and policy making. But it's not been utilized in the way that it should. We hardly see, fora where we can actually talk to our leaders and give our opinions on certain issues. Do you feel like that is a true representation of what is actually happening?
Yes, indeed, it is. But also, I would say that at least now we have spaces and the platforms where the young people can challenge, the political elite and provide and get them to change, first of all, their mentality, but also to change policies. And, this has happened. Is through that public participation that you have mentioned, that albeit, of course, through demonstrations and protests, that the changes that were achieved in 2024 took place. And therefore, I agree with you that popular participation is very important. But this has to be well structured. It cannot be organic. And that is why I think young people can now take advantage of what NCIC, for example, is providing. And we have seen in the number of the transgenerational conversations that we had, including one with the universities, with academia, because many of these young people are also students. And their voice clearly can and is being heard in this platform. Now the question is, do you now go to the level of policies and the programs and the projects? To me, that is the key challenge we have now. And I think the young people are up to it.
Yes.
And they can indeed bring about meaningful change in this country if they participate that way. But, as I said, remaining leaderless can be dangerous. It can lead to anarchy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what the young people want to do.
Yeah.
But it was used to mobilize people, and now the hard work really starts in statecrafts, in governance, and as you said, the Chapter 6 of the Constitution, or the preamble of our Constitution, and the Article 10 of the Constitution on values. Let me say that of course, we all agree that there is a lot of corruption and so forth. And this, there could be laws, there could be punishments, etc. But unless we begin to have the right values, including patriotism, including integrity, including the dignity of every person, we could only achieve so much in tackling corruption.
True.
And therefore, Article 10 of the Constitution, and as NCIC, we consider ourselves as the custodian of Article 10 of the Constitution.
Right.
And that is why we really want to provide for the young people opportunities, for us to interpret this correctly.
Right.
The other point I would like to make when we talk of transgenerations, and we chose deliberately to talk of transgenerations as opposed to intergenerations, because when you look at the history of our country, you have at any given time generations at younger generations, etc. We have now 5 generations living.
Yes.
That there are continuities and the similarities, whether we are talking of the struggle against the colonialism, or we are talking of which is first liberation or second liberation.
Right.
Now, what the Gen Z have done is it's an advent of the third liberation.
Yes.
And I think they can be at the forefront of leading in this third liberation. But there is always the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom of the older generations, which I think young people will be well advised to also respect and spare the time. And that is why at every conversation that we have had, we have at least 3, if not 4 generations. And this, of course, helps a lot.
Yes.
We are very careful to have conversations where there is proportional representation, and therefore we have encouraged majority of those who are involved in the transgenerational conversation to be young people.
Yes.
But other generations as well, because we always ask how many generations are represented here.
Right.
And all the way from my generation, which is boomer,
yes,
boomers,
right,
to
alpha.
Alpha.
Right.
Alpha, of course, are now not.
Those ones are babies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Gen Z,
right,
meaningfully, yes. So that's, that's important. Now, let me end by saying that we have engaged the Right Honorable Raila Odinga when he came up with the intergenerational conclave, and we agreed that we work together, and that what we should come up with not so much really a conclave, because a conclave by nature is exclusive, and we want an inclusive process, and we want a platform where not only that the elders and because the conclave is a Catholic
Yes.
term,
Secret meeting to
that
elect the
brings
Pope.
the very selective small thing. So we are working together actually with the team that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga put together.
And I'm sure the Prime Minister meant well when he was asking for that conclave. Perhaps just the modalities is what we'd need to talk about. But taking you back a little bit to the time this country has experienced some kind of youth revolution. We had something in the 80s, in 83, when multipartyism became a very proper conversation in this country. Then again in 92, when we had the likes of Saba Saba and every other kind of uprising.
The young Turks.
Young Turks. Basically, it's the young people wanting to be heard, wanting to be listened to, and wanting their voice, considered. So do you feel like we have now come of age and perhaps we are doing things better apart from maandamano last year and a bit of last year? Do you feel like right now it's ripe, it's the right time that we can actually move forward with that intergenerational conversation?
Yes, I do. The Gen Z of today are very well educated. There has never been a young generation before where we had as well educated, well informed young people like today.
Yes.
And therefore, I think yes, we have reached. There is maturation of what the young people can do. When we talk of say Mau Mau liberation, there wasn't even telephones. We couldn't engage and have information passed on. It was very difficult to organize smokes.
That is what I was taught. I think it's standard for.
Yes. So it's and then of course come the second liberation. Even that we didn't have as advanced communications technology as we have today. And that's why it's easy to mobilize. Through the WhatsApp and all that, you can reach millions of people within no time. Therefore, we have now the capacity, I would say, to be able to reach a level of mutual and participation than we ever had in the past.
Okay.
And that's why I say yes. I think time is ripe. It's a question of getting organized, structured, and also, of course, there is a need for a political goodwill. We should, because one thing we need really to agree on is on the national agenda. Through the demonstrations and the protests of June 2024, the Gen Z set a national agenda. Now, what has not happened since then is, I'm coming back to that because to me it's very important, is translating that agenda into projects.
Okay.
And this can only be done through a well-structured, and organization and the structures.
All right.
Yeah.
Finally, before I let you go, the Constitution of Kenya, there was actually a Constitution of Kenya Integration Commission led by Charles Nyachai. A lot of Kenyans feel like that commission wasn't given enough time. 5 years, for me, I don't think was enough time for them to actualize the dream that is the Constitution of Kenya. And perhaps a lot of the issues that we're facing today, including the youth problems, perhaps would have been addressed had that commission been given a little bit more time. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I fully agree with that. 5 years is not a very long time. And the commission shouldn't have been wound up, really. I think it should have been, what should have been done is what we did with TJRC, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. It was a short term, it was time defined, which was handed by my good friend, the late Ambassador Bedro Kiplagat. And it did very well to come up, and even with the recommendations that really are very important. Yeah, so that was a time-defined commission, 3 years. After that, it was up. But then there was the creation of NCIC. So the NCIC is I would say the TJRC is NCIC is the successor to TJRC. The problem we have had as the successor of TJRC is that the recommendations that were made by TJRC are still sitting in the Parliament. They have not been now deliberated on and enacted into law and so forth. Secondly, NCIC, we have been advocating for enough resources because you would recall that the former President Uhuru Kenyatta declared that 10 billion shillings was set aside to implement, some of the recommendations of TJRC.
Yes.
We have been asking for that, at least even a small percentage of that, to be able to deal with that. One issue, for example, is land. And the recommendations of TJRC on how to, deal with the land issue are very good, but they have never been implemented. Therefore, I agree, the Nyachai Commission, Charles Nyachai Commission, shouldn't have been wired up and then just forgotten. It could have been approached in the way that TJRC was approached to form NCIC. And that is why we are able to continue with some of the mandate that were given to TJRC at that time.
All right.
Yes.
Finally, as you conclude, what would you tell the young folk in the studio and beyond who are watching and listening to you right now as far as cohesion is concerned and that intergenerational conversation?
Well, mine really is to call upon the young people. First of all, to say how critically important the Gen Z demands through demonstrations and the protests and all that were in 2024. As the NCIC, we came up with the 7 achievements that the Gen Z made, which then I would say that we should build on that.
Right.
And I'm calling on Gen Z to actually take advantage of what is available at the moment, not only to register, to vote, and actually vote come August 2027, but to already really look at these achievements. First of all, there was an improvement in the conduct of public officials. And now, the Gen Z should have set up a monitoring group because that conduct of public officials, they are now back to the bad manners.
Yes.
Now, there was dissolution of the cabinet. There was improved state of relations between the Senate and the National Assembly. There was the IEBC reconstitution. There was the significant budget cuts and the redirection of funds. And then the rejection of the Finance Bill 2024. But what I think was even the most significant achievement is what I call awakened conscience of the nation. And to me, that is what I would say the Gen Z did a great thing to help in awakening the conscience of the nation.
Right.
Now, the next step is build on that and help to come up with projects that will make it possible to achieve what now needs to be achieved as we move on to 2027 elections.
Right.
The young people have a critical role to play here. I would say that they have what I call a burden of history. There is the capacity. The question now is to mobilize the resources and say, during our time,
yes,
this is what this is what was expected of us.
Yes.
And then let us build on that.
Right.
And secondly, and know that nothing will be given on a silver platter. We are into as I said, the terrain of power and all that.
Yes.
And this can be rough and tough. And they must be prepared for that.
Yes. You've told them to get up there and capture power.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
And you've said the youth have the burden of time?
The burden of history.
Burden of history.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr.
for having me.
For getting time out of your very busy schedule and being here and having this maiden conversation.
Yeah.
And we hope some of the things that you've pointed out, we shall continue having them on this particular podcast.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Karibu sana. That is Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, the chairman of the NCIC, that is the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. This is the podcast where, of course, these conversations will take place. We want to bridge that gap between that folk that you're thinking about and yourself. So keep it tuned. Don't go too far because the conversations are happening right here. Until next time, see you on the next one.